All right, let's talk about India's economy. But I want you to forget the story you think you know, because this isn't really a story about a developing nation. It's something much, much bigger. It's the story of a global superpower, a great collapse, and an even greater restoration that's happening as we speak.
Just look at these two snapshots in time. Back in 1700, India's economy was an absolute giant, making up almost a quarter of the entire world's GDP. Britain, it was a tiny player, less than 2%. Now, fast forward just 250 years, and the whole picture's flipped on its head. It's a shocking reversal.
So, that's the big question, is it? How does an economic superpower, one that dominated the globe for almost 2,000 years, suddenly just collapse? What on earth happened in that short span of 250 years? Well, that's the mystery we're about to unravel. To really get the scale of the collapse, you first have to understand the sheer scale of the dominance that came before it. I mean, we are talking about an era of economic leadership that is almost hard to believe, and we've got the numbers to prove it.
Now, what's so incredible about this timeline isn't just the high numbers, it's the consistency. Thanks to the amazing work of economic historian Angus Maddison, we can see that from the year 1 AD all the way through to 1700, India was responsible for somewhere between a quarter and a third of the entire global economy. This wasn't some brief golden age, you know? This was the normal state of affairs.
And this chart really puts it into perspective. In 1700, India, as a single country, had a bigger economy than all of Western Europe put together. And Britain, the empire that was about to rise, it was barely even a blip on the radar. Just incredible. Let that number just sink in for a second. 1,700 years, consecutively. This wasn't luck. It wasn't a fluke or a temporary high point. It was 17 straight centuries of being an economic leader on the world stage. So you have to wonder, what was the secret sauce? What was powering this incredible engine for so long? Well, it wasn't just about trade. It was a deep, fundamental culture of innovation. We're talking about ideas and technologies that literally built the modern world. Let's start with something you use every day, probably without even thinking about it, the number 0. The computer or phone you're watching this on right now could not exist without it. Well, it was first defined with all its modern rules in India way back in 628 AD. And get this, it took another 600 years for that game-changing idea to even make its way to Europe. Or how about this? On the left, you've got an iron pillar that was forged in 402 AD. It's been out in the open, through monsoons and everything, for over 1,600 years. And there's virtually no rust on it. To this day, modern scientists are still scratching their heads trying to figure out its advanced anti-corrosion technology. That's the level of science they were working with. And all this amazing innovation was fostered in these great centers of learning. Places like Takshashila and Nalanda were like magnets for the smartest people from all over Asia, even from Greece. They were thriving centuries before places like Oxford were even a thought. The library at Nalanda was said to have held 9 million manuscripts. 9 million!
So you've got this global economic leader, an engine powered by innovation, education, and advanced manufacturing. How do you bring all of that to its knees? Well, the next part of our story is a systematic, deliberate dismantling. This is what we call the Great Extraction.
India's #1 industry, its crown jewel, was textiles. So the first step was to smash it. And this slide shows you the playbook perfectly. Britain slapped these crippling 70 to 80% taxes on Indian cloth coming into Britain, while at the same time, they flooded the Indian market with their own textiles completely tax-free. It was economic warfare designed to bankrupt an entire industry.
And the result? It was a wealth transfer on a scale that is honestly hard to even comprehend. The economist Utsa Patnaik did the math, and she calculated that the total value drained out of India during this period comes to around $45 trillion in today's money. It's just a staggering figure. Now, it's really important to be clear here. That $45 trillion number is a high-end estimate, and historians do debate the precise figure. You'll see other estimates that vary depending on the methodology they use. But here's the key thing. While they might argue about the exact number, they all point to a massive multi-trillion-dollar extraction. The fact that the drain happened isn't in dispute at all. And this wasn't just about money. The human cost of this extraction was horrific. During the Bengal famine of 1943, somewhere between 2 and 3 million people starved to death. And what's absolutely chilling is when you look at the data.
It's not that there was a shortage of food. Food was actually being exported from Bengal for the war effort, while millions of its own people died of hunger.
But what about the railways? That's the argument you always hear, right? That they were a gift of development. Well, the evidence tells a pretty different story. The rail lines were specifically designed to get raw materials out of the country to the ports. They were paid for entirely by Indian taxpayers, and the profits, they went straight to British companies. And here's the killer question. If the railways were really for India's development, why did its share of world GDP completely collapse while they were being built?
So all of this history brings us to today, and it forces us to make a crucial shift in how we see things. What's happening in India right now isn't the story of a poor country developing. No, it's the story of a historical giant returning to its natural state.
This one slide basically tells the entire story. Look at it. For 1,700 years, you see this high, stable economic plateau. Then suddenly, a sharp, totally unnatural V-shaped collapse. That V-shape, that's the colonial period. It's a historical anomaly, an interruption. So the rapid climb we've seen since 1950, it's not some new trend. It's a correction. It's a return to the mean.
And that brings us to the single most important idea in this entire explainer: restoration. Viewing today's progress through this lens, it reframes everything. This isn't the story of a nation catching up. It's the story of a nation reclaiming its natural place in the world.
So why does any of this matter? I mean, it's ancient history, right? Why does it matter to you right now? Well, because what was stolen was wealth, but what was left behind, that's an inheritance. It's a legacy.
Think about it. When you truly understand that your economic history isn't 75 years of struggle, but is actually 1,700 years of global leadership, followed by a brief but brutal interruption, it changes your entire mindset. Poverty stops feeling like some kind of destiny. It just feels like a temporary problem that needs to be solved.
So remember this, the civilization that literally invented zero, that pioneered metallurgy that still baffles us, that built the world's first great universities, that DNA didn't just vanish. That legacy of excellence, that is your inheritance. The only real question left is, what are you going to build with it?